So, who'd like to go first with your new awarenesses?
I had checked in over text with Penny, just saying, how's this inquiry you have about this value clash with John? And she texted John, and some of his boys were around, and they were kind of puffing themselves up saying, oh, didn't we do a great job with this building? We're so smart. We did it all by ourselves. And, Penny's comment was, hello, I've been here for this whole thing. All she does is text me this. And my brain just, it blows up. I go to this crazy, like, Me Too place. Like, how dare those misogynistic assholes treat you like that? It just mushroomed. So I start texting Penny this vomitous content. Somehow in the middle of it, I was thinking about this course and volition and put my brakes on so fast. All of a sudden I could see, now wait a minute. Penny didn't say she was unvalidated. Penny didn't say they were being misogynistic assholes. It could have been 2 seconds later they said, high five, Pen, you were a help. I don't know any of that. But I'm in this whole diatribe all by myself over here, making all these judgments about these people that, oh, by the way, I've never met any of them. I don't know anything about their character. This could have been all alcohol, or this incident could have lasted like 30 seconds. And I'm making it like it's ruined Penny's weekend. And so I keep editing this text. And as I'm editing the text, I go out on Google and I look up the word volition. It'll give you the definition. And then below that, it'll say, people also ask about, volitional freedom, volitional control. So I'm like way down this wormhole of reading all this stuff. And it's so powerful and brilliant. It was blowing my brain up in the opposite direction of where it had just come from. And one of the things I realized is this is the entire fight I'm having with my mother. If somebody were to have sent this text inbound to me that I'm started to send to Penny, I would be like, who said don't talk like that about my husband. I have this completely new understanding of the fact that what happened from a mechanical standpoint is that something happened over there. I witnessed it. And these automatic cultural beliefs of mine that I was pretending were values came storming up. And I was about to put them out in the world like they actually belong to me. And I actually think that way. And this investigation into, definitions and things like that, and the preposterousness of me, even with somebody I know well, assuming what's happening in another person's world and then putting it over there as if I'm right. I sent her a highly edited text that basically just said, sounds like the boys are being boys. If you need anything, I'm here.
That was a great example, Ray. It's really weird how those unexamined beliefs take over the whole system.
What's really interesting to me is that there's automatic behavioral responses. Does it not engage the brain? Volition is cognitive processing. In other words, thinking, and volition does.
So I think you're talking about the difference between an anatomic system, which does it automatically without thought, and then adding the volitional to it to where you're making a conscious choice.
Yes, absolutely.
Here are those slides next to each other. The beliefs are handed down. So it's so culturally ingrained, we don't even know that we're carrying them a lot of times. And they're rarely reevaluated because they are autonomic. They are ingrained. So we don't even know to examine them. Right. And they can create all kinds of conflict, whether it's internal or external, with conversations or with the internal experience. I was raised with alcohol just being part of your daily life. And I never knew that it wasn't appropriate. It was normalized. This is just what we do. This is how we do it. And then I chose friends and partners around that belief system. And that's what broke my picker. Even though I'm making choices and decisions based on those unexamined beliefs, I still thought I had values and I was choosing. But the problem is that I'm not choosing from my own free will. I'm choosing from my parents' free will because they're handed down beliefs. So we actually are examining those beliefs to see if our beliefs are in match of our values. Those values are really what is creating your internal experience. You're moving from that value system, even though your beliefs are conflicting, then it becomes really internally conflicting. And what I notice is that if my belief is to be kind, and that's important, then when I act outside of that belief, I become stressed. Also, when I'm engaging with other people that act outside of that belief, I become uncomfortable. Then you jump in even further. How do you define kind? How I define kind is probably really different than the way you might define kind. And yet I'm going to hold everybody to that same definition I'm carrying. And that's a belief, but the value is kindness. All right, someone else, what's been your experience since we've met last?
I actually sat down and had a conversation with my current partner. We talked about how our priority list is versus his priority list, how it caused all these things to start going wrong, like our trust in each other and our respect for each other. Our values don't even match up. And then so we were talking about, well, what values are different, and I had to go back to this list that we were coming up with. And I'm like, well, these things, like I value keeping our earth clean and not littering in my favorite lakes and rivers, and you value not having to spend money on a dump run. Why am I with someone who is so strongly against all the things that I strongly believe in? And this either needs to be rectified or we need to end this at some point. The conversation itself was, it was calm. I think it went well. And then the next morning, that's where I had to deal with the backlash of now he's hurt and now he's going to throw it in my face and say things like, oh, well, I don't know, I'm just lazy and selfish. It kind of left me with, not only are we so not matched up value wise, but we can't even communicate about it because then there's this penalty I'm going to have to pay.
Yeah, it's a cost.
Perfect
And you need to evaluate that cost.
You're having a very brave conversation and being really responsible in it, that it's your opinion and on your side. Your intention, sounds to me, was like to move things forward. And that is the issue, is when the person on the other side then has retribution for you sharing content in a totally clean way, really, then that's another mismatch.
Ella, when you're sitting in this conversation and then it gets thrown back at you, what's happening internally for you in that relationship when you've got a belief mismatch like that that's actually carried into the values?
I get just really frustrated. First thing that goes through my head is, see, these are all the reasons why I don't want to do this anymore. When we're having the conversation, he'll say, well, you don't trust and respect me. And I say, yeah, I don't, because of these reasons. And for him, it lines up to, you just need to trust and respect me. And for me, it lines up to, we need to change this in a very fundamental, like breaking apart way. And so I'm like, well, end it. And he's like, fix it. And then the second thing I start thinking is, am I like that? Do I throw stuff back in his face? But then I just start questioning myself, my own values. And do I really hold up to the standard that I want in my life? Or do I just want the standard that I'm not?
Yeah, thanks for articulating that. So our very first session that we did, we took a list of everything we don't want in a relationship, and then we flipped it into what we do want. So let's look at it. Are we those things? This is part of that developing and growing because your values changed. So part of my world is about telling yourself what to do instead of what I don't want to do. It helps that development and growth, and it creates a whole new experience. So instead of saying, I don't want to make my bed, how about, gosh, I want to crawl into a nicely made bed this evening? Or like my brother visited from Utah yesterday. I want my brother to see my house clean. And that's kind of the trick I play with my brain is instead of telling it what I don't want, is I'm telling it what I do want. Since we're here, I'm going to mention this. There's 3 voices we speak in. One is the child voice. I don't want to, you can't make me, I don't like it. The next one is the parent voice. And the parent voice is do what I say when I say to do it and how I say to do it. That is the left side of the T model. It's emotional driven behavior, the child voice and the parent voice. The child voice is rejecting. It feels as if it's moving out of obligation or a have to. And a parent voice is coming from a controlling behavior. Do what I say to do when I say to do it. It can also be coming from a rejecting place regarding rejecting what you are doing or what you're doing at the moment or what your needs are at the moment. Parents also have a tendency to work out of obligation. You have to so that now what we really want to do is move towards what we call the adult voice. And the adult voice is on the right side of the T model, where we're approaching even uncomfortable things in life with acceptance, accepting that that is the way that it is right now, accepting that's their opinion, accepting it's a new information, accepting it's a new fact, even if you don't like it, and then getting real curious about what we can do so that I'm comfortable in my 6 areas of safety. Now, what the parent and the child does is try to get other people comfortable.
But, of course, I wanted to have every bit of relationship I could with my daughter. I wanted some control over some of her medical decisions and all that kind of stuff. But I came into some radical acceptance that I haven't been physically present in her life for a long time now, and that they do things differently than how I would want them done. And of course, like a 12-year-old doesn't want to be sitting on the phone with her mom 3 days a week after school. I had to really evaluate and change.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you went from this parent voice on the left side wanting to control how it was done, what you got versus he got. And then you took some time to gather information, accepted the fact that that is where she's at right now at 12 years of age. And then you got real curious about really what is my intention here? And you got real intentional. So part of our belief comes from that parent voice because that's the way we were raised. So I was raised with what I would consider very nice, polite, considerate parents. However, looking back, they were quite controlling. You do what I say when I say to do it. I don't care how you feel. Get up and get going. It doesn't matter what you need to get done. This is more important. And so because I was treated from the left side of the model, I never even knew the right side of this model existed. So my definition of relationship was skewed.